Greetings, viewers, and welcome back to Just Short of Fantastic. Well, it is a gray, rainy December 1st, and there's no better weather to sit and have a chat about New Albion. So let us begin. The Shapera-verse, as we in the fandom like to call it, is a series of musicals that were written and produced by the genius Paul Shapera. For the sake of brevity, I'm not going to explain like the entire New Albion verse. To be honest, that would just take way more time than you or I have. So I will just keep it brief by explaining the plot of the very first musical in the New Albion verse, the Shapera verse, the Dolls of New Albion. Spoiler alert, I am going to tell you the entire story. I apologize in advance. So here we go. The plot of the Dolls of New Albion, a steampunk opera. The Dolls of New Albion is a phenomenal musical that is about broken love stories and the dead things with which we play. Phenomenal. It's about loss and regret and belonging and needing to let go of the things that we love that do not or cannot love us back. And very simply, it is about a single family, the McAllisters, and it starts with Annabelle McAllister. This prison's made of lead and gargoyles of iron shreds, and Annabelle McAllister who's raising up the dead in the city of New Albion, which itself has a very interesting and storied past, which is kind of built up throughout the musical. New Albion becomes a character in its own right, and it is fascinating, the lore and the world building. But I won't go into that. I'm going to stick with just the main characters of the Dolls of New Albion. So first of all, there's Annabelle McAllister, who is raising up the dead. Basically, she fell in love with someone in school, and eventually the school kicked her out for being too crazy. And but then he married someone else and he had a child, but then he died in an accident, and she gets closer and closer to bringing back the dead until finally she succeeds in bringing back this man's soul and putting it into a doll's body, which is why it's called the Dolls of New Albion. Ta-da! Oh, the man who she was in love with and brought back to life is named Jasper. So anyway, she brings him back from the dead, but he can't move and he can't talk. The only thing he can do is take snippets from the radio and place them together into songs in which he can express his longing to return to the land of the dead. He doesn't want to be here anymore. He died, he was at peace, he wants to go back. But Annabelle has been lonely her whole life, and she finally feels that she has a friend, until finally he succeeds in communicating to her how depressed he is and how much he longs to return to death. And she finally hears that, and it breaks her heart, but she sends him back. What may please does not content, all resolves but never ends. All that comforts is not true, and all you love does not love you. Annabelle is part of an upper-class family, so after she sends Jasper back to the land of the dead, she has to get married to somebody to continue the line. And she gets married, and she has a son whose name is Edgar, and he meets this girl, Faye, and he's madly in love with her. He takes her out to dinner, and he was going to propose. But then, before he can do that, she says, "I'm really sorry, I've met someone else. I love him, and we need to break off our relationship." So he's devastated, and in that devastation, he goes up to the attic, and he goes through his mother's trunk and finds her old scientific notes for bringing back the dead. And then he gets this crazy idea where he starts bringing back the souls of the dead and putting them into the bodies of dolls. He makes it a business, and he gets super rich, super successful. Eventually, he becomes so powerful that he ruins this other man. He hopes Faye will come back to him. He brings back the soul of her father, Jasper, the same man. So Faye does go back to him, And he says to Faye, listen, you can have him back in your life, but only if you marry me. So she does, but it's awful. But it does result in a child whose name is Byron. So the third act is about Byron. So Byron inherits the doll, Jasper, and he comes to love it a lot because he gets no love from his parents, who are stuck in this bitter, unhappy, toxic relationship. So Byron comes of age, and he decides to get political in the city of New Albion, which is now overrun by dolls filled with the souls of brought back to life people. And they have this whole like political movement, and it's a whole thing, and then an incident happens that just like sparks off all of this rage and resentment between like the classes and between the dolls and the living people. This whole thing about voodoo punk, which is itself another whole thing that I'm not gonna get into. But anyway, so the end of the third act is this giant bonfire where people just go crazy and they start killing the dolls, they start tearing them apart and setting them on fire. And then the fourth act is Byron, having all of his political dreams dashed, just slinks back away from public life, and he gets a trophy wife, and together they have a daughter who's named Priscilla, and she, this is the fourth generation down, comes of age in a New Albion, which is a police state. After the giant bonfire of the dolls, the city government called in the military and was like, you need to control everything because everything is descending into chaos, and if anyone is found with a doll, they are taken away and executed. So Jasper is still here, and he is with Priscilla, and they hide in their family house and they play cards like every day. This is the first time that Jasper actually falls in love with someone since coming back from the dead. Because Priscilla has no ulterior motive, Priscilla is completely innocent, she loves him in the same way. It's this pure, innocent love that they have because they're trapped together. And she calls the police to come, and they find them together, and they kill them both by firing squad because she knows he wants to die and she can't live without him. So they die together. And that is the end of the Dolls of New Albion. Hopefully you sat through that and you weren't bored to tears, and part of you wants to go and listen to this musical. And that's just the first one. This has sprung off into a giant universe of its own. But I still come back to that first one as a beautiful standalone masterpiece. I'll put the link up with the video. Please feel free to go over to Bandcamp and like throw money at Paul because he is amazing and I really want him to continue doing what he is doing. We should all support the weird and obscure artists in our lives. And this video has gone on for far too long, so I'm just gonna end here. Alas, friends, we cannot stay. The future is always on its way. Thus ends our little passion play as played today. Until next time, stay just short of fantastic.